You are afraid of an animal that has almost never killed you. You have probably never seen a deadly spider. You have probably never been bitten by one. You probably do not know a single person who has been hospitalized by one. Of the roughly 50,000 species of spider alive on Earth, only about 30 can seriously hurt a human. The one in your bathroom is not one of them. The one on the wall last summer was not one of them. The one in your shoe at the campsite was not one of them. And still your body locks. Your shoulders pull back. Your hand moves before you do. Most people assume the answer is obvious. Spiders are creepy. We were taught to fear them. Movies, parents, older siblings screaming on the staircase. But that's not quite right. Because the fear shows up in babies, in 6-month-olds who have never seen a spider in their lives, in toddlers whose parents tried and failed to hide their own reaction, in cultures where spiders are eaten as food. The fear arrives before the story does, before the language does, before the child has any idea what it is reacting to, which means the real answer is stranger than you'd expect. There are 3 of them, and once you see the 3 of them stacked on top of each other, you stop asking why you flinch. You start asking how anything has ever been able to override it. The first cause lives in your visual cortex, and it has been there long before you were born. In 2014, Vanessa LoBue, a developmental psychologist at Rutgers University, published a series of studies in the journal Developmental Psychobiology. She had spent more than a decade building experiments to test one strange question. Can a brain detect a spider before it knows what a spider is? Her method was simple. She showed adults and young children grids of 9 images on a screen, 8 neutral pictures, 1 target, sometimes a flower, sometimes a frog, sometimes a spider. She tracked how fast their eyes locked onto it. Spiders won, every time. Adults, 3-year-olds, infants barely old enough to follow a moving shape. Their eyes snapped to the spider faster than to any other category of image, faster than snakes, faster than guns, faster than threatening human faces. The effect was not subtle. Across hundreds of trials, spider images were located by the eyes in a fraction of a second less than neutral images. That fraction of a second is not noticeable to you, but to your nervous system, it is the entire universe. It is the difference between a hand moving in time and a hand moving too late. Think about what that means. Your eyes are not scanning the room democratically. There is a circuit in your brain running through the pulvinar, a small structure deep in your thalamus, straight to your amygdala, that bypasses conscious vision entirely. It looks for specific shapes, radial symmetry, multiple thin legs, low, scuttling motion. It sees them before you do, and it pulls the alarm before your visual cortex has even finished rendering the image. This is why you can be reading a book in bed and your hand will slap the wall before you have processed what was crawling on it. The slap happens first. The thought arrives later. Your brain is built to act before it understands. But here is the part nobody talks about. That circuit is not unique to humans. We share it with every primate on Earth and with most mammals after that, which raises a much harder question. How old is this fear, and why did it carve itself so deeply into our nervous system that even a baby cannot escape it? But that's only half the story, and honestly, what comes next is even stranger, because your body is not just primed to spot spiders, it is primed to fear them before you have ever met one. In 2017, Stefanie Hoehl, a neuroscientist then at the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Leipzig, published a study in the journal Frontiers in Psychology. She and her collaborators ran the experiment on 6-month-old infants, babies who had never seen a spider, babies who could barely sit up without help. Her team showed each infant a series of images on a screen: flowers, fish, snakes, spiders. They measured pupil dilation, the body's most reliable involuntary marker of stress. The pupils widen. The nervous system braces. It is autonomic. Babies cannot fake it. Parents cannot teach it. The body either reacts or it doesn't. The pupils dilated for spiders. They dilated for snakes. They did not dilate for flowers or fish. 6 months old, no exposure, no story, no older sibling shrieking down the hallway. Their bodies already knew. And here is where it gets worse. Hoehl and other researchers ran similar protocols on infants and toddlers across very different cultural backgrounds. Children growing up in countries with no dangerous spiders showed the response. Children growing up surrounded by some of the deadliest spiders on Earth showed roughly the same response. The fear does not scale neatly to actual local risk. It is fixed. It is set somewhere in the first months of life, and it does not adjust the way ordinary learned fears do. So what is happening? The current best explanation, and Hoehl is careful here, is that your nervous system carries a kind of ancestral threat template. Not a memory, not a thought, a shape. Mammalian and primate brains have spent something like 60 million years evolving alongside venomous arthropods. Long before our ancestors stood upright, long before we made tools or controlled fire, the small, 8-legged shape on the cave wall could end a hunter or a child in a single hour. The brains that flinched survived. The brains that hesitated did not. The brains that needed to think about it left no descendants. This wasn't learning. This was inheritance. 60 million years of selection, compressed into a reflex that fires in less time than it takes to blink. And once you see it that way, the question stops being why you are afraid. The question becomes, why has nothing else been able to override it? But there's another layer to this, and it might be the strangest part of all. The third cause is the one that explains why the fear of spiders does not just exist. It spreads, it deepens, it reshapes itself across whole cultures. Pascal Boya, a cognitive anthropologist and professor at Washington University in St. Louis, has argued for decades in papers running through the 2000s in behavioral and brain sciences and elsewhere that human fear is unique among animals in one specific way. We talk about it. And once a fear can be carried in language, it stops being personal. It becomes shared. It survives generations who never saw the threat firsthand. A monkey can be terrified of a snake, but a monkey cannot tell its grandchildren a story about a snake. We can, and we do. Think about what every child learns long before they ever encounter a real spider. Charlotte spinning in the barn, Aragog in the forest, Shelob in the tunnel, the black widow under the porch, the brown recluse in the boot, the tarantula on the pillow in the movie that played one rainy afternoon when you were 5. None of these are individual animals. They are stories about a category your nervous system was already built to flinch at. Language gives fear a skeleton. Without it, your reaction to a spider would be a reflex. Sharp, brief, gone in seconds. With it, the reflex becomes a worldview. Every dark corner becomes potential. Every shadow becomes signal. Every unfamiliar texture against your skin in the middle of the night becomes interrogation. And there is a single word that captures exactly what this layered fear feels like. And its origin tells you how ancient it really is. The word panic comes from the Greek god Pan. Pan was the god of wild places. Forests, caves, the spaces beyond the firelight. The ancient Greeks believed that hunters and travelers who entered Pan's territory could be struck suddenly by a wave of irrational terror. No predator visible, no clear threat, just the wilderness itself reaching into the body and turning it against itself, which is, almost word for word, what your nervous system does the moment something with too many legs moves at the edge of your vision. The Greeks did not know about the pulvinar pathway. They did not know about pupillary dilation in 6-month-old infants, but they had named the experience perfectly 3,000 years ago. The wilderness reaching into the body, the freeze that arrives without permission, the fear of small things in dim places. That is your circuit. They just gave it a god. It wasn't one thing. It was everything all at once. A visual circuit older than your species, scanning every room you walk into for radial legs. A pre-tuned stress response that widens the pupils of a 6-month-old who has never even heard the word, and a layer of stories, myths, films, warnings, fairy tales, feeding language and meaning back into a reflex your body has been running since long before language existed. Hardware, biology, folklore, all firing at once, all before the conscious mind has a chance to ask whether the spider on the wall is actually dangerous. By the time you decide to be calm, the decision has already been made for you. So when you freeze in the bathroom doorway at midnight, when your hand slaps the wall before your brain catches up, when you stand on the chair in a room you know is safe, that is not weakness. That is not anxiety. That is not a malfunction. That is 60 million years of mammalian survival, doing exactly what it was built to do. You are running a 60 million-year-old program. It does not care that you live in a city. It does not care that the spider in your bathroom has never killed anyone. It only knows the shape, and the shape to your body is still the cave wall. Somewhere in your line, 100,000 generations back, a small primate woke up in the dark, saw 8 legs moving on the cave wall, and ran. Their cousin did not run. Their cousin did not have children. You are descended from the one who flinched. We did not build civilizations to escape that fear. We built them around it, houses with hard floors, lights at every doorway, the sealed walls, glass in the windows. There's stories told to children to keep the shape recognizable across centuries. Every generation and passing the alarm forward without noticing. We thought we were building shelter. We were building a frame the old fear could keep running inside. For 60 million years, every mammal that survived was the one that flinched. You are the latest one. The chair you stand on, the light you flick on, the breath you take before stepping into the room. All of it is downstream of a small primate who once chose the same way you just did. The spider in your bathroom is harmless. Your body does not believe you, and it never will. That is not a flaw. That is memory. The oldest memory you have. Older than your name, older than your face, older than the species you belong to. If your body has been carrying this fear for longer than there have been humans, imagine what else it is still carrying without telling you. Subscribe if you want to keep finding the ancient programs still running underneath your modern life. And if you want to keep going, there is one shape every human,